Today we're in Ludgvan near Penzance for Chapter 4 of Rambles Beyond Railways by Wilkie Collins. In August 1850, while Wilkie Collins was on his walking tour of Cornwall, he came to Penzance and met Richard Moyle, who was a doctor, and they became very good friends. Collins describes Dr. Richard Moyle as a gentleman who had passed his life in Cornwall and was respected, deservedly, by everyone who knew him. While researching Walking with Wilkie, I discovered that Dr. Richard Moyle was born over there, in the village of Marazion. He later, in 1839, became mayor of Penzance over there. Sadly, Richard Moyle died in 1855, 5 years after meeting Wilkie Collins, but they always remained friends. In his recognition of how much he helped him write this book, Wilkie Collins edited the 1861 version to write this: "Since my last visit to Cornwall, death has removed Mr. Moyle from the scene of his labours, to the lasting and sincere regret of all who knew him." In 1820, a farmer from Ludgvan died of what was supposed to be the English cholera. A few weeks later, his wife married again, which excited the attention of the whole neighbourhood. It was remembered that the woman had lived on very bad terms with her late husband, that she had on many occasions exhibited a strong symptoms of possessing a very vindictive temper, and that during the farmer's lifetime she had openly manifested rather more than a platonic preference for the man who she subsequently married. Suspicion was generally excited. People began to doubt whether the first husband had died fairly. At length, the proper order was applied for, and the man's body was disinterred. On examination, the man's stomach was found to have enough arsenic in to poison 3 men. August 1820, Sarah Pole Green met her death. It was a public execution at 5 Lanes on the crossroads to Truro, Weybridge and
Liscard.
Now on that site now stands a funeral director's, which is a bit spooky. As Sarah Pole Green stood on the scaffold, her last words were that her deeds be a warning to any young girl that strays from the straight and narrow. Soon after Sarah Pole Green had suffered capital punishment, terrible stories began to be widely circulated of a ghost at Ludgvan churchyard. People said on dark, stormy nights they saw a resemblance of the murderess standing on Henry Pole Green's grave, digging as if to dig up his body for examination. No one dared go to the church after nightfall. Soon something else began to trouble the minds of the people of Ludgvan village. Where had Sarah Pole Green been born? Near Ludgvan church, where we are now, there once was a well, and that well was supposed to have water in it which they used for the baptism that would have remarkable properties. Every child that was baptised in these waters was secure from ever being hung. No one doubted that the baptism water worked until it was thought that Sarah Pole Green had been baptised at Ludgvan church. What had gone wrong? Sarah had been hung. Ludgvan baptism water was famous. They had to find out whether she was baptised here. What did they do? They had to check the records. After much trouble, the records were eventually found, and Sarah Pole Green had turned out to have been baptised at the neighbouring village of Goulhall and not Ludgvan. The virtuous properties of the well water from here were maintained. The relief was amazing. Everyone was overjoyed, and the water became even more famous, and people came from all over Britain to fill bottles of water and take them back and christen their own children so that their children would be spared Jack Ketch. Well, that ends the story of Sarah Polgreen from chapter 4 about Cornish people. And I'm going to leave my Walking with Wilkie card